The topic that we are going to talk about is masculinity. What is masculinity? Masculinity refers to a manly character and the way men behave in order to be a real man. Some ways to think about masculinity include: masculinity is a socially and traditionally considered characteristic of being a male. A real man is essentially different from a woman. A real man is characterized by toughness, competitiveness, strong physique, aggression, and emotionality. Many social structures favor men, which means men have more power and control than women.
Good day everyone, I am Vandello from BSHM 2A and I will be tackling the topics about men and gender studies, beginning of masculinity, and what makes man a man, from chapter 17 titled Masculinity. So, the first topic is about men and gender studies. How could gender equality be seen as anything but beneficial to both women and men? Did men truly lack empathy or a capacity to care for women? Would discussing men's issues just another way of focusing men back to the timeline in a book that was supposed to be about women's issues? So, the academic area of men's studies is interdisciplinary and focuses on issues related to men, masculinity, gender, culture, politics, and sexuality. It also analyzes from a scholarly perspective what it means to be a guy in modern society. What is gender studies? It works to advance gender equality and reduce prejudice towards women and other underrepresented groups. It is also responsible to comprehend how gender norms contribute to the ongoing operation of women in contemporary society by looking at the history of gender norms over time. The idea of the male gender as a gender also lacks discussion because men are often seen as the template for all genders. Any deviation from the male heterosexual template are seen as different. It is important to discuss that masculinity is the prevalent notion which shapes all aspects of society, from politics and legislation to scholarly interaction. Only then can one see the effort of gender inequality and gender socialization on both genders. After all, it is necessary to have both genders pushing for gender equality to have a truly inclusive society. The second topic is about beginning of masculinity. Masculinity, often known as manhood or manliness, is a group of qualities, actions, and roles that are typically of men and boys. There is evidence that some behaviors considered to be masculine are influenced by both cultural and biological factors. The extent to which masculinity is influenced by biological or social factors is up for debate. Masculinity is distinct from the definition of the biological male sex because anyone can display masculine traits. Standards of masculinity differ across different cultures. In this scenario, men are obligated to work outside, making them absent during a child's early years. The presence of the female and absence of the male lead to boys learning masculinity through dislocation from their mothers. Men's way to separate themselves from what they see as women's task. This shows that boys and then later young men learn to be men through dislocation, separation, what they see on social media, and the interactions in their schools. The third topic that I will be tackling is about what makes a man a man. One can say that man is strong, but the degree of strength one may have depends on age, biology, and physical ability. Is a man less of a man because he is physically weaker than his wife, or because he earns less than his female counterpart? Manhood is something that one can describe through adjectives: tough, brave, and strong. According to the sociologist Michael Kimmel, the specific meaning of masculinity to be fluid, though one thing remains constant: the need to prove one's masculinity regardless of how it is defined in a given culture at a specific period of time. From the book of Kimmel, he identifies the 4 rules of American masculinity in year 1970s as described by psychologist Robert Brandon. No sissy stuff, be a big wheel, be a oak, and give him help. And also, according to the 2 psychologists Joseph Vandello and Jennifer Bosson, who also studied the manhood, added that there are various forms of masculinities, although at a given time, only one masculinity dominates the gender hierarchy above all feminities and other masculinities known as the hegemonic masculinity. Explains some men who act a certain way feel as though they can dominate both men and women. Vandello and Bosson also shows that factors that surround manhood, it is hard to win, requires constant proof, and is easy to lose. A man can be a man if he have the strength to ensure his family is safe and have the capability to earn even not that much to give his family's needs.
Proving masculinity. Gender is an identity that is socially constructed through interaction. The constant need to prove one's masculinity along with the notion that is hard to win and easy to lose makes one wonder. One myth of manhood is that men act to prove themselves to women, but the fact that masculinity is so strongly connected to a shared gender identity shows that men must constantly prove their masculinity to other men. Men perform their masculinity mostly to and for other women. They also compare themselves to other men, as was done in childhood learning. Women may even be the objects or the means to the end of impressing other men. An aversion to the feminine masculinity as homophobia. Masculinity, through its discussion with women and femininity, may have become a form of homophobia. Homophobia is not the fear itself of gay men, but the fear that a man, as the cause of sexism, racism, and heterosexism, as it is an aversion to becoming. Masculinity power. The ever-pervading fear of losing one's masculinity may be tied to the fear of losing power. Masculinity is about a masculine man is a powerful man who controls various resources. When the masculinity of a man is challenged, he loses power unless he defends himself. It is challenged when a man is associated with the feminine or perhaps when he is seen defending women or members of the LGBT. This fear causes silence that is mistaken for consent, men to what is being done to women, and the LGBT those without the power. Masculinity has this power over men, the fear of becoming effeminate when they stand to defend the non-dominant masculinity. This fear is a representation demonstrating the society thinks lowly of women.
Man is the masculine generic and male entitlement. When people think of gender, they readily think of the female or the LGBTs, and rarely the male. Men are viewed as the masculine generic, largely the reason why gender studies often bring women to mind. Masculinity was defined mostly by women and how they see and experience masculinity. Male entitlement is a feature of misogyny that prioritizes what men purposely deserve and dictates what someone obligated to give them. Men and fragile masculinities. A man can become aggressive and abusive when a female challenges his masculinity. Another category of male will feel nervous and hide in a shell because he feels less of a man. In some parts of the world, men are mocked when they cry, hold hands, hug, or wear pink attires. Fragile masculinity is a problem faced by certain males as it is evident in the man's behavior when interacting with women. The responsibility of a man. According to what God said in the Bible, man should be 1. Accountable to God. It is the responsibility of a man to be a loving authority rather than a harsh authorization role. As a loving authoritarian, the man is accountable to God for his family well-being. 2. Role of a father. The responsibility of a man according to the Bible was designed by the God is to be father. The best gift a father can give to his children is to love their mother. A father is responsible for raising and providing for his children, and father should be a protector of his family. Is the Philippines a masculine country? The Philippines scores 64% over 100 on the masculinity dimension, making it a masculine country in Hofstede typology. According to Hofstede, A masculine culture or a masculine society is one that stresses different expectations for men and women. In a masculine culture, men are expected to be assertive, competitive, and focused on material success. And also, our country is led by a man, the President Bongbong Marcos, which is very masculine, so that the country will be also masculine.